Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Chamunatira Vanachari Chamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana 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 Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari जय राधा माधव राधा माधव राधे। जय राधा रघुनाथ राधा रघुनाथ राधे। जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय प्रभुपाद। Jayam Vishnupad Paramamsa Pararajakacharya Sutra Sat Shri Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. His Kam Beauty Prachanda Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Samveda Bhaktivinoda ki. Gaur Premanandi. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahakana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahakana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Kopesha Kopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. This morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 17. Maharaj Prithu becomes angry at the earth. Verse number 27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tvam stabdham durmadam Nitva. Tvam stabdham durmadam nitva. Tvam stabdhan durmadam nitva. Maya gam tilasha sharai. Maya gam tilasha sharai. Maya gam tilashasharai. Atma yoga balenema. Atma yoga balenema. Atma yoga balenema. Dharayishyam yaham prajaha. Dharayishyam yaham prajaha. Dharayishyamyaham praja. Tvam stabdham durmadam nitva. Mayagam tilashasharai. Atma yoga balenema. Dharayishyamyaha praja. Tvam stabdham durmadam nitva. Mayagam tilashasharai. Atma yoga balenema. Dharayishyamyaham praja. Tvam stabdham durmadam nitva. Mayagam tilashasharai. Atma yoga balenema. Dharayishyamyaham praja. Tvam stabdham durmadam nitva. Mayagam tilashasharai. Atma yoga balenema. Dharayishyamyaham praja. Tvam stabdham durmadam nitva. Mayagam tilashasharai. Atma yoga balenema. Dharayishyamyaham praja. Tvam stabdham durmadam nitva. Mayagam tilashasharai. Atma yoga balenema. Dharayishyamyaham praja. Anyone else? Tvam, you, stabdham, very much puffed up. Durmadam, mad. Nitva, bringing into such a condition. Mayagam, false cow. Tilasha, into small particles like grains. Sharai, by my arrows. Atma, personal. Yoga balena, by mystic power. Imaha, all these. Dharayishyami, shall uphold. Aham, I. Prajaha, all the citizens, or all the living entities. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Translation: you are very much puffed up with pride and have become almost insane. Presently you have assumed the form of a cow by your mystic powers. Nonetheless, I shall cut you into small pieces like grain, and I will uphold the entire population by my personal mystic powers. Please repeat. You are very much puffed up with pride and have become almost insane. Presently, you have assumed the form of a cow by your mystic powers. Nonetheless, I shall cut you into small pieces like grain, and I will uphold the entire population by my personal mystic powers. Purport. The earth informed King Prithu that if he destroyed her, he and his subjects would all fall down into the waters of the Garbha ocean. King Prithu now replies to that point. Although the earth assumed the shape of a cow by her mystic powers, in order to be saved from being killed by the king was aware of this fact and would not hesitate to cut her to pieces, just like small bits of grain. As far as the destruction of the citizens is concerned, Maharaj Prithu maintained that he could uphold everyone by his own mystic powers. He did not need the help of the earthly planet. Being the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, Prithu Maharaj possessed the power of Sankarsana, which is explained by the scientists as the power of gravitation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is holding millions of planets in space without any support. Similarly, Prithu Maharaj would not have had any difficulty supporting all his citizens and himself in space without the help of the planet Earth. The Lord is known as Yogeshvara, master of all mystic powers. Consequently, the planet Earth was informed by the king that she need not worry about his standing without her help. Tvam stabdham durmadam nitva mayakam tilashasharaihi atmayoga bale nema dharayishyamyaham praja. You are very much puffed up with pride and have become almost insane. Presently you have assumed the form of a cow by your mystic powers. Nonetheless, I shall cut you into small pieces like grain, and I will uphold the entire population by my personal mystic powers. Hare Krishna. Before commencing some discussion on this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, I'd just like to give a little introduction, since I'm a guest visitor here. My name is Ananda Tirtha Das, and we live in Mayapur. I was fortunate to join Krishna consciousness in Perth, Australia in the mid-80s when I was just a young lad, and attended Gurukul in Australia for 2 years, and then in 1988 I moved to Mayapur and joined Gurukul there for many years. During our time in Gurukul, we also had the opportunity to travel to different yatras, different countries, to help the local temples in deity installations and yagyas and such priestly activities, because we had learned those things in Gurukul. And so I was very fortunate to come here to ISKCON Durban in 1996, which is now 28 years ago. And we were invited from Gurukul, 4 of us came to perform yagya at the Rath Yatra, which that year was on the beachfront. And it's a long time back. I don't have so many clear memories, but I do remember the temple, and His Holiness Bhakti Char Maharaj was here at that time, and we did an initiation yagya for him just in this corner, I believe. And of course we did also yagya at the Rath Yatra site and attended the festival and had a very wonderful time here. So it's very nice to visit again after such a long time. We came 4 of us from Mayapur then, we also 4 of us from Mayapur now. Slightly different 4 though. I have my wife and children here with me. But it's such a nice experience to be in this kind of oasis of Krishna consciousness in Durban. Just the deities, the temple, the decor, the grounds, the trees, everything is so nicely arranged for the pleasure of the Lord. It's really like a spiritual oasis in this city, which is not so attractive. Yesterday we went out to town and drove around a bit and visited some places. And coming back to the temple, you really feel, the spiritual potency and shelter that Shri Shri Radha Radhanath and all the devotees are providing in this otherwise not very attractive part of the world. And this is Srila Prabhupada's mercy. He came here and he left his lotus foot dust here, his instructions, which have fructified now into this beautiful temple and community. And it's really nice to see how everything is going on very nicely. I wish more devotees were here to, take advantage of this beautiful atmosphere. Maybe we're coming at an off time, but it's such a nice morning program that really would be wonderful if more devotees were present and attending. Closer? Thanks. Yeah. So, with that brief introduction, I'm very happy to be able to share a few thoughts on this in a very interesting passage of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Mother Earth has become a cow and Prithu Maharaj is, as the king of the world, he's chastising Mother Earth and he's prepared to kill her. The second line of the verse, Maya Gam Tilashash Sarai. So the false cow, the Maya cow. So he's telling Earth, Bhumi Devi, that you're a false cow. And Til is sesame. So he's not just going to chop her up, but he's going to pulverize her into the size of sesame seeds, tiny. If you're familiar with sesame seeds, we use them in yagya also. They're really tiny. So Til is literally sesame. And Sharai means by his arrows. He's going to pulverize her into tiny fragments, tiny pieces like a sesame seed. So quite an extraordinary pastime and has a lot of deep imports also. Of course, this is not the first time that Bhumi Devi assumes the form of a cow. Who knows, there are at least two other instances in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam where Bhumi Devi becomes a cow. Can anyone remind me of one of them? Yes. When did Bhumi Devi become a cow? Mother Earth. Yeah, so when all the demons were taking over the earth, so what did she do then? She became a cow and what? Yes, very good. So we know from the 10th canto, when discussing the events leading up to the appearance of Lord Krishna in this world, so Mother Bhumi Devi was oppressed by so many demons, like Kamsa over there, and so she became a cow, and she went in with tears in her eyes to Lord Brahma, asking for shelter and help, and thereafter Lord Brahma and all the demigods prayed to Lord Vishnu to appear. Then that's one instance of Mother Earth becoming a cow. There's another instance, Mother Earth becoming a cow. I'm sure most of you know, but maybe just feeling shy to say. In the first canto, of course, we know there's a whole discussion between Dharma and Bhumi. And Dharma, he's become a bull, and Bhumi Devi becomes a cow. And then here in this fourth canto, we see Mother Earth has again become a cow. So in this situation, it's a little bit different from the others because she's become a cow to escape from Maharaj Prithu. So the history is that after Maharaj Prithu became king, the citizens came to him with, I won't say complaint, but explaining their situation, that actually there was not enough food production. There were not enough grains being produced from the earth. And it says actually they were becoming skinny. They simply didn't have enough to eat. It was pretty much a famine situation. So Prithu Maharaj, being the king, he was responsible to see to the welfare of all the citizens. In the synonyms here, the last word, praja, is translated as all the citizens or all the living entities. So the king wasn't just responsible for the humans under his rule, but even for all the creatures, all the animals, all the plants, everything. He was responsible to see that everyone was maintained. So when this famine drought was happening, the citizens came to submit to Maharaj Prithu that they needed sustenance, they needed shelter, they needed food. And Prithu Maharaj, he meditated for some time. How is this happening? Why is the earth not producing grains? Whose fault is that? Because actually the citizens were all performing their duties properly, and he concluded that it's actually the fault of the earth herself, who is not producing grains as she should be. So he took up his bow and arrow, and he was prepared to kill the earth. It was in the previous verses, it says that he was just going to shoot his arrows into the earth. So Bhumi Devi became alarmed, and she took the form of a cow to evoke his compassion. and she began to run away out of fear, and Maharaj Prithu chased her all over the universe with his bow and arrow ready to chop her up. And then she realized she couldn't escape from him, so she surrendered, and she offered some prayers, and she gave some explanation why she shouldn't be killed. One, that she's a cow; two, that she's the earth, she holds everything together. She's also female, and she's giving different reasons why she should be spared and not chastised. And Maharaj Prithu is not really taking any of those arguments, and here he's saying that it doesn't matter, that you're not really a cow, you're a false cow, and even if you say that the earth, without you, everyone will collapse, there'll be no land, if there's no earth planet, how will society continue? Everyone will just die. And Prithu Maharaj is saying, no, I can take over your role as giving the support for all the living entities on this planet. Because, as Prabhupada says in the Prabhupada, he is Yogeshwara, he is the master of all mystic powers. So there are different mystic powers described in the Shastras, and you can see that Bhumi Devi herself is showing her mystic powers by changing her form into that of a cow. So, as we mentioned, there are several times where Bhumi Devi became a cow, and there are also instances where different demons became cows or bulls for evil purposes, for the purpose of killing Krishna. So, which demon became a cow? Can someone tell me? Maybe the younger member of the audience can say. Who was the cow demon? Did she say? Or who was the bull demon? So in Vrindavan there were twice demons came as one a calf, Vatsasura, and two as a bull, Arishtasura. So Vatsasura was the first one, and he became a calf thinking that he'll be able to sneak up on Krishna, because Krishna, as we know, every day he would go out to the pasturing fields with unlimited numbers of cows. I think the figure is Nanda Maharaj had 900,000 cows, or is it 9 million, some huge number of cows, which according to current estimations, we can't even understand how it's possible. But Krishna knew all those cows, and they each had names, and he knew each and every one of them. He knew they would come when he would call them. So as soon as Vatsasura mingled with those other calves of his, he immediately understood, this is not one of my calves, this is a demon. So Krishna and Balaram together, and you can see how personal Krishna is. He knew each and every one of his calves. So Krishna and Balaram together, they snuck up behind Vatsasura. Vatsasura was thinking he's sneaking up on Krishna, but actually the tables were turned. He was suddenly grabbed from behind by Krishna and hurled into the tree, and in that way he lost his life. And of course Arishtasura, he came as a huge bull. He wasn't hiding himself. He wasn't trying to hide himself like Vatsasura. He came directly as a huge bull, and the whole earth of Vrindavan was shaking with the pounding of his hooves, and he directly challenged Krishna, and Krishna also very easily killed him. So sometimes Krishna is criticized in a friendly way, that he killed a calf, Vatsasura, he killed a bull, Arishtasura. We know the whole pastime of the creation of Radha Kund is because the gopis would not go near Krishna. They said, oh, you've committed a great sin by killing a bull. You're contaminated, don't come near us. You have to take bath in all the holy rivers now. And Krishna said, okay, that's fine. And he called all the holy rivers right there in Vrindavan, in Shamakund, and he bathed there. And then he told the gopis that, you are against me, that means you're siding with the demons, you're siding with Arishtasura, so you're also contaminated. You should take bath in my water to purify yourself from that. And they said, no, we're not taking bath in your kund. It's contaminated by the sin of killing the bull. We're going to make our own kund. And thus they created Radharani, and the gopis created Radha Kund. Now, so sometimes Krishna is criticized in these ways, or he killed Putana, who is a woman also. But of course, these are all his transcendental pastimes, and just to increase the relationship and the rasas between his devotees, sometimes he's criticized like this. So back to the actual topic in this verse, Maharaj Prithu is feeling so responsible for the citizens, and this is actually the ideal head of state. The way that the head of state should be conducting himself should be acting out of concern for the welfare of the citizens, and not just the human citizens, because the humans are the ones obviously who give votes. So in the modern day, the political parties are only interested in making promises to the voting electorate so they can be elected. Someone told me this year that 60% of the world's population is going to the polls. I believe in South Africa you have voting in a few weeks. We've seen some of the election signs and voting rallies. India is also going to the polls this month. Now it's the most populous nation in the world. Of course, America is also having elections this year. So it's a very topical subject. What is the role of the head of state? In Vedic times, of course, there was a king who was qualified to sit on the throne and pronounce judgment and rule the kingdom. The difference with democracy is that Prabhupada was very much against democracy, and he even gave a, what's the word I'm trying to find, like a synonym for, or a pun on the word democracy. He would call it demon crazy. So the citizens are not educated in spirituality. They don't know actually what is their, how to conduct themselves, what is the purpose of life. So they don't know who to elect. And those who are in the post running for government office, they're also of very low character. They also don't know any higher purpose than eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So they promise the citizens different things that they think will garner more votes, various kinds of sense gratification or material facilities, and the people will be convinced by, whoever's the most convincing will get the most votes. And generally, in this world, we find that after the election, after that person comes to power, most of their election promises are forgotten, and many times, I think in this continent and all over the world, those in power are very corrupt and take a lot of bribes, really interested in amassing personal wealth, personal gains. And this is Kali Yuga. This is how things are being run. It's a crazy society, a headless society where there's no direction from the Brahmanas, and simply the Shudra masses are electing another Shudra leader to gratify themselves, but actually it just becomes a topsy-turvy society, and there's so many protests and revolutions and coups, and all sorts of things are going on all over the world in this Kali Yuga. So Tirtha Maharaj, being not just a powerful king, but he's actually an incarnation of the Lord. So he's taking so much responsibility, and he has so much power that not only can he actually kill Bhumi Devi if he had wanted to, but by his own powers, he could maintain the entire kingdom even without the help of Mother Earth. So you can see the difference between the modern rulers of today and the great Rajarishi saints of the previous yugas. And Tirtha Maharaj, of course, he's the incarnation of the Lord. He was created from the body of King Vena, and King Vena was the son of Maharaj Anga. You may have heard, those who are attending every day would have recalled, probably in the last few months you've been discussing these chapters. And Maharaj Anga is a very interesting personality, and because my wife and I are very much into promoting samskaras, Maharaj Anga is one example that I use quite regularly in my course. And it's topical because he was discussed, he's just two kings. Like, in one way you could say he's the grandfather of Tirtha Maharaj. So Maharaj Anga was a very great king, like Tirtha Maharaj. He was doing his duties very nicely, taking care of the citizens. So once he performed a fire sacrifice, a yajna, which is one of the duties of the kings, is to worship the Lord, worship the demigods. But no one appeared. In previous yugas, when the sacrifices were performed, the deity being worshipped would actually appear out of the fire, whether it's Agni Dev or even Lord Vishnu would appear. When Tirtha Maharaj does sacrifices, Lord Vishnu himself appeared. But nobody came when Maharaj Anga performed his yajna, and he was feeling a bit disappointed, and he asked the Brahmanas, what's my fault? Why is this sacrifice not successful? They said, actually, Maharaj, you haven't done any, you're faultless, but somehow, some bad karma, you don't have any son. So for a king, of course, to not have an heir means that the society will be thrown into turmoil. Because after the king, renounces or dies, who will take over the kingdom? So it's very important for the king to have a son and heir to maintain that standard of governance and take care of the citizens. It's not simply a hereditary right that, because I'm in charge, therefore my son. It's not nepotism in that sense, but actually the king has a qualified son who is also trained up properly to rule the citizens, and in that way the Vedic society would carry on generation after generation. So Maharaj Anga realized, that he needed to have a son, so he performed another sacrifice. He got the result of that, and his wife became pregnant, and his son was Vena. So unfortunately, although Maharaj Anga was a very great personality, a great devotee, his son was totally the opposite. And he was very cruel and very harsh, tyrannical. Even when he was a young child, he would just go and kill animals unnecessarily. When he's playing with his friends, with boys of his own age, he would just kill them mercilessly. So right from the very beginning, he was a very cruel, despotic person. And it is described by Prabhupada in the purport that because the king's wife, or Vena's mother, was daughter of death personified, therefore he had very dark tendencies. And that leads into a discussion about the consciousness of the parents and how to have nice Krishna conscious children. But in any case, the story continues that despite trying in various ways to train his son nicely, Maharaj Anga was simply unsuccessful. No matter what he did, King Vena, as he grew up, simply became more harsh and more cruel and more evil. So eventually Maharaj Anga became so frustrated, and he kind of laments that, it's better to not have had any son. I was happier when I had no child, and this boy has ruined my life. So eventually he just leaves in the middle of the night without telling anyone. He takes it as a sign from the Lord that, he should renounce his life, renounce his family, and take up, spirituality, take vanaprastha, go to the forest and worship the Lord. So he just overnight disappears, something like Lord Buddha does. And everyone wakes up in the morning, no king. So if there's no king, then there's chaos in society if there's no government. So the Brahmanas, really the only person who could become king was Vena, even though everyone knew that Vena's not really the right person. He was the son of the king, he was the heir to the throne. And it said, actually, it's interesting, the Brahmanas wanted Vena to be king, and the ministers were saying, no, he shouldn't be the king. So there was some dispute, but eventually, anyhow, Vena was given the throne. And at least one good quality that he had, he was so harsh and cruel that all the thieves and dacoits and plunderers who would normally be trying to take advantage of the citizens, they became so scared they just fled and hid away. So at least the citizens were not being harassed by those personalities, because they knew that Vena would just kill them. But Vena, as he got full powers, then he became even more extreme, and he stopped all sacrifice. This is the duty of the king, is to see that the citizens are engaged in their duties, and primarily those duties are to worship, perform sacrifice and worship the demigods, worship the Lord. But he stopped all of those sacrifices. And he said, I'm the king, everyone should just worship me. I'm representative of all the demigods, I'm representative of God. You don't need to worship anyone else, just worship me. And he was just shutting down the Varnashram system. Similarly, Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, these great demons did the same thing. So the Brahmanas came together and they said, no, this is not going to work. We have to correct the situation. That's their duty, to give good advice to the king. So they came and very humbly told Vena that, in a very gentle and humble way, they presented how Vena should be ruling the kingdom and how he shouldn't stop worship of the Lord. And Vena simply had no interest in listening to them and disregarded them, offended them, insulted the Brahmanas. And the Brahmanas decided that this is not working. We put this man on the throne, and it's our responsibility now to rectify the situation. So simply by mantra, humkara, the word is used, by saying that powerful syllable, those potent Brahmanas actually just killed Vena on the spot, without any weapons, or not assassinating him in that sense, or stabbing him and poisoning his lassi or anything. They just killed him by mantra. And then again the same situation was there. No king, and as soon as Vena was killed, actually all the dacoits and thieves were rushing back. It says that there were clouds of dust from there coming to attack all the citizens. So immediately the Brahmanas had to rectify the situation again. They churned the body of Vena, and from that very interesting kind of system, they created, or they invoked Maharaj Prithu, who was actually an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. And his wife Archi, she also came out from the body of Vena, and then Maharaj Prithu became king, and that leads up to where we are in this chapter. So it's described in the 12th canto, the predictions for Kali Yuga, what happens in Kali Yuga. As I was saying, how the modern rulers generally are of very low caliber person, and they're not able to provide protection to the citizens. What to speak of the human citizens? They're not even concerned with the animals. Prabhupada was always speaking against slaughterhouses, how the animals also have a right to live peacefully within the kingdom, but rather what's happening today is these mass slaughterhouses where every day millions of animals are being slaughtered just for gratification of the tongue of the untrained people. And so much sinful karma, so much sinful reaction is hovering over this world from this very abominable animal slaughter that's going on such a whole scale, in such a whole scale way. So in the 12th canto it's described that the mlechas in the guise of kings, asamskrita, again this we talk about this point in our course, asamskrita kriyahina rajasa tamasavrita prajaste bhakshayishyami mlecha rajanya rupinaha. So it's described that the kings in Kali Yuga, of course there are not so many kings left in this world, especially kings that actually have some power, a few maybe Arab countries that have kings. So mostly the kings are deposed, and there's this system of democracy. But whatever it is, whoever's the head of state, mlecha raja nirupina, they're actually mlechas, not even on the level of Shudra. They're below, out of the varnashram system. And rajasa tamasavrita, they're covered over by mode of ignorance, covered over by mode of passion. Asamskrita, they've had no samskaras performed. Kriyahina, they don't perform any good activities. So when such people become the head of state, what is their purpose? What do they do? Vrijaste bhakshayishyanti. Literally means eat. They eat the citizens. Means they devour the citizens. They take over. They exploit people. And how do they do that? Mostly by heavy taxes, heavy taxation. Another prediction is what happens when the citizens are so heavily distressed by taxation, even they don't have income, they're forced to pay tax to the government, and the government doesn't give that back, in the form of providing civil services, but they simply divide it among themselves and enjoy the proceeds. Shaka mula mishak shaudra phala pushpashti bhojana anavrishtya vinangshanti dhurbiksha karavirita. This is a prediction. What happens in such a situation? That people will run away from the cities. They'll run away and live in the forests and jungles and just live off whatever they can grow there or find there. Wild honey, roots, fruits, meat. They'll just, hasn't quite come to that situation yet in Kali Yuga, but it's going to happen. Where because of drought, where because of high taxation, people are going to flee their homes and try to live off the land in the jungle and forests. So these are the things we have to look forward to in Kali Yuga without the presence of a Krishna-conscious king, a powerful monarch like Maharaj Prithu. So drought, yeah. So this is also the Vedic system. Why they have to perform yajna? Because it's all a very scientific and organized system that Krishna has created. As he says in Bhagavad Gita, Anad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad annasambhava yagyat bhavati parjanyo yagya karma samudbhava. So drought is caused by lack of rain. So why is there no rain? It's because people are not performing sacrifice. Anna comes from rain. Anad bhavanti bhutani. Everyone lives off food grains, and food grains are produced from rain. Rain is born out of performance of yajna, and yajna is performed because of when one performs one's prescribed duties, and yajna is performed. So, therefore, as I was saying, rather than performing yajna, or to speak of yajna, of course in Kali Yuga we know the supreme yajna is the Harinam Sankirtan yajna. So, if we perform Sankirtan yajna nicely, then naturally everything is in balance and the rains will be on time, the earth will produce abundant grains and fruits and vegetables that we can offer to the Lord, and then everything is very much in harmony. But we can see that so many places now, there's such an imbalance in the global ecosystem. There's droughts in some places, floods in other places, high temperatures, global warming, pollution, wars. So many things are going on because of this lack of understanding of how to perform this sacrifice, how to balance the needs of the people. What are those needs actually? Not simply gratification of the senses. What is the actual purpose of life? To live a dharmic life and to worship the Lord and ultimately to go back to Godhead. People have no understanding of any higher principle than eating, sleeping, mating, defending, and gratifying the senses. So this is the duty of those of us who, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we have gotten this higher understanding. What is the purpose of life? Prabhupada took so much trouble to travel to so many countries around the world to give this knowledge, give this understanding. And factually, Kali Yuga's full effect will only be felt when this Sankirtan movement dies out. It's predicted there's a 10,000 golden year period from Lord Chaitanya's appearance, which was 538 years ago. 538 years ago, Lord Chaitanya appeared. So from that time on, there's a golden period within the Kali Yuga of 10,000 years when the Sankirtan movement will be spread and expand. But after that, when Kali Yuga takes full hold, pretty much there will be no devotees left in this world. And that's when all these very harsh, heavy predictions that we read about in the 12th canto are actually going to come and manifest fully. It's really horrible things are mentioned, like people will have children just so they can eat their own children, because there's no food. So there's a lot of awful things that we are not looking forward to in Kali Yuga. We're very fortunate that we're coming in this period. We're born in this period of the 10,000 years of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan propagation, that we can take part in the Sankirtan mission and keep Kali at bay, at least for 10,000 years. By performance of Sankirtan, the Lord is pleased, the earth will produce grains and foods that we can offer to the Lord and then consume and maintain ourselves very comfortably in this world. And the more we spread this message of Krishna consciousness, the more people that take up this kind of lifestyle, then the effects of Kali Yuga will be reduced or kept distant for as long as possible. So this is some thoughts on this verse and this topic. The only last point I would just like to make, at the end of the purport, Prabhupada talks about the Lord is known as Yogeshwara, who's the master of all mystic powers. So we know from Bhagavad Gita also this word is used in the last verse. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurdhara, Tatra Shri Vrijayo Bhuti Dhruvani Tirmatir Mama. This was a sign that Arjuna is going to be successful in the battle of Kurukshetra on Sunday, he's a Jai Satchidananda Prabhu, I think he said his name was. He was reading from Krishna book, and he also mentioned this point about how the Pandavas had only 9 Akshahinis, 9 divisions of troops, and the Kauravas had 13. So just from a very external point of view, one would think that, the army, which is 13 parts versus 9 parts, will be victorious. And they also had many great generals comparatively. But because Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas, and wherever there's Krishna, that's what the verse says, Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna, Yatra Partha Dhanurtara, wherever there's Arjuna, the wielder of the bow, Tatra Shri, there will be beauty, Tatra Shri Vijaya, there will be victory, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhuti, opulence. And this was the opinion of Sanjaya after hearing the entire Bhagavad Gita, reciting the entire Bhagavad Gita. This was his conclusion, that because Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas, therefore the Pandavas would be successful. Jayastu Pantaputranam Yasham Pakshya Janatana. All glories to the Pandavas, on whose side is Krishna. Of course, Krishna, we know, didn't take up any weapon in the battle. He simply drove the chariot of Arjuna. But just by his presence, the Pandavas were able to overcome such great obstacles during the battle and were able to rule the kingdom very nicely and progressively, just like Maharaj Prithu and Maharaj Anga and other great saintly Rajarishis in the past had ruled the kingdom. So if we are aligned with Yogeshwara, with Krishna, then we're under his shelter and protection, and he promises to give all protection to his devotees. So that's a very safe position to be in this material world, which brings me back to the opening statements of how this temple is such a sanctuary within this city of Durban. And it's really wonderful that devotees have the opportunity to come here to bask in the darshan of Radha Radhanath and the association of all the devotees here. So please keep up the good work here and expand the preaching and bring more and more people to the shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. And that way we'll be protected by the Lord and by our Acharyas and Srila Prabhupada. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? All right. Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Gaur Premanandi.